Hello, everyone. I'm Bill. Yeah, today, in this latest podcast, as part of the emerging process, uh, I want to focus a little bit on our favorite places in the world, our connection to those places, and importantly, the resource they can be for us, particularly in a difficult time. There's a lot to struggle with, you know, in our world, inside ourselves, in our relationships and communities and societies, so forth. Yeah. So I was going to actually let me back up a half step. I was going to continue with material and practices around the life myth, and I'm going to continue with that shortly. But in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was kind of tinkering around with things inside of myself. And yeah, I remembered one of my favorite places in the world is by the ocean in California, where I live, and also in Oregon, where I have traveled many times. And so the suggestion here is, hmm, yeah, let's see. I notice should I go into it myself first? Should I guide you through it? Maybe I'll guide you through it and start to go into it myself and then talk a little bit more about it. So, if this is a good moment for you to do so, just make yourself physically comfortable as possible. Take a few moments to do that. Maybe might mean sitting down or lying down or just stopping if possible. You can take a couple of deep breaths and join you with that. And then bring to mind a favorite place in the world, somewhere in the recent past or even further back where when you've gone there, you just tended to feel really well. And maybe you've been fortunate enough to go back there a few times or many times, and you notice, wow, when I go to this friend's house or when I go to this place in nature, I feel well. So the invitation here is imagine going there now. Yeah, if you're very fortunate, you already are there. But if not, yeah, just imagine going there now and see the sights of the place, what you see there. Mm. And then notice what you hear. Yeah, just listen to the sounds of that place. Notice the smells. Mm. And importantly, notice the energy or the quality of the place itself. Like, for example, notice the warm, welcoming quality of your friend or family member's home. Or notice that very still quality or energy of the forest that you love to visit, etc. Just notice those things. And even imagining yourself there now, notice how you feel. Because maybe even with this short little, call it a meditation or journey, you start to feel a little different. You start to feel a little bit more relaxed or a bit warmer, a little bit safer, perhaps. Yeah. And just sink into that. Let yourself be there a little bit. Yeah, be feel good. Yeah. Take your time. Shut off the video or keep it on. Just appreciate or enjoy this nature or home spot energy and the experience or feeling that it brings you. I'm going to go a little bit into my ocean spot place for a moment before I go further. Yeah, I noticed because I've done this so many times over the years that when I start to imagine, see, and feel this nature spot by the ocean, I almost immediately start to feel more spacious. So I'm going to stay with that for a moment. And notice the traffic outside, but it kind of blends into this auditory sense of the ocean, the waves crashing. Yeah, it's nice actually. Yeah, I feel more space. Hmm. Take a little bit more time there. You allow me. I can allow myself. Here's another step if you like. You can just continue imagining being in your nature place or home spot. Enjoy that. Or you can play with this. This is an interesting and sometimes very helpful step. Is just for a few moments. Hmm. If it's really all right for you, comfortable enough to do so, just for a few moments, lighten your own connection to your everyday self and imagine that just for a few moments, to a very small degree, in some version, you are this nature or home spot energy. Again, just if you feel very comfortable doing so, so that you just for a few moments become that warm, welcoming home environment of your friend or family member. Yeah, you kind of become that warm, welcoming energy. Or maybe you become that very quiet desert quality that you really love. You become that little bit, just for a few moments. And notice what that's like. Yeah, maybe you get a sense of that energy or quality a little bit more as you feel that you are it. You are also it a little bit in your own version. And then come on back into your everyday self. Uh, And if you enjoyed that as a practice, you might find it helpful here or there, for a minute or two a day, a couple times a week, whenever you feel like. Just touch back into that as a little practice, a little meditation of sorts. Or you're in a difficult family situation or relationship situation, work situation, team meeting, you're facilitating a group, etc. There's a difficult situation at hand. You might find that touching into this energy and utilizing it in your relationship to that group or to that situation, you might find that it enhances your ability to be with it, to address things, to facilitate things, etc. Yeah. Yeah. So before you have that difficult conversation with that friend, you're going to have that family meeting, you're going to facilitate that very difficult group situation. You might try it out a little bit. And you might see that your nature or home spot self, so to speak, it might have an enhanced ability to hold difficulty, to hold diversity of people, of perspectives, of styles, might have an enhanced um, capacity for holding tension and polarities. Yeah. Yeah, I invite you to play with that if you like. Experiment a little bit. Hmm. So I'm going to use this at this early juncture of having started this podcast to work on a little bit some of my inner tensions or complexes or anxieties about speaking publicly because I have a bunch of them. Maybe you do too. It's that I haven't heard it in a while, but over the years I've heard that public speaking is our number one fear. That many people would rather die than speak publicly. I'm going to guess that's still true. Maybe even more true these days with how easily it is to you know get attacked for things, be criticized, sometimes harshly. And yeah, so even though I imagine that I have a fairly friendly audience, over the years as a workshop leader, teacher, facilitator, these different roles that I have stepped into in my, I'm thinking most of my work life here. Yeah, I have been attacked or criticized a few times, sometimes a bit harshly. Once I went to the hospital, I thought it was actually associated with. It was a long time ago, but yeah, yeah, I felt really deathly ill after one public attack. Laughing now. Oh. But let me use my as a way to model like some of the ways that we can utilize our nature or home spot energies. Well, let me back up a half step. So, thinking about difficulty or thinking about some of the traumas that we hold or have experienced knowingly or unknowingly, one of the ways to help address those traumas is to connect with something larger, connect with something that can care for and hold those body, mind, physiological, psychological, emotional, physical difficulties. And this nature home spot energy that you just connected with might be one of those very important resources that you can bring to bear on difficulty. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a trauma, but might include stuff like that. Oh, by the way, this is a shirt I got recently. It says resist racism, bigotry, hate, fascism, lies, evil, bias, etc. Yeah, these are all things that I think exist in our world, exist in us. I'd say many of these things live in me. I think about, yeah, these things, but I think they're also good to resist and work with and fight with. Yeah, certainly not just go, yeah, we want a racist president. We want a misogynistic president. We want somebody who's standing for us. Kill those other people. Ah, yeah, I think there's a place for resisting that stuff. And there's a time also to recognize most things, unfortunately, don't just live out there, they live in here. That's the good part of inner work, by the way, is that we can address those things sometimes in a much more immediate way than trying to, for example, fight racism outside of us, which, is very important work, but it tends to be very difficult and very slow moving work. I mean, working on racism or sexism or homophobia, et cetera, inside of us isn't necessarily quick moving work either. But it seems like we have a lot more agency to address things directly inside of us. I'll go into that in future podcasts, but I wanted to show you my shirt in case you were wondering what are those letters and words on Bill's t-shirt. Anyway, wonderful women's group that I got this shirt from. So, but I digress a bit. So yeah, so contacting these nature home spot energies as a way to help enhance our ability to address difficulty, whether outside of us or inside of us. So yeah, let me reconnect a bit for a few moments to my nature spot by the ocean, and then I'll work on myself a little bit with some of the things that have been coming up starting this podcast, and then I'll call it a day. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like I've reconnected to that nature spot. Feel a little bit, yeah, that spaciousness, that largeness, and I feel something calming, even while at the same time I feel a little anxiety about working on myself in public. But that is one of the many gifts that I derived from my teacher of many years, Arnie Mindell. Yeah. But oftentimes, model working on himself right when he's working with a large group. It's an amazing thing to see. It's so rare. Like, when do we see that really? When do we see our leaders go, wait a minute? For example, when have we ever seen Donald Trump go, there's something happening inside of me. I know I'm lying right now. There's a little part of me that feels a little uncomfortable with lying to the American public. Let me work on that inside of myself. Do we ever see that? Will we ever see that? Hmm. I I don't. I'm not going to bet money on that one, but I'll try it. Let me try it. And let me just say, I have utilized inner work in public many, many, many times, and it can be very, very helpful. For example, if I'm with a group and there's complex things going on, and let's say I'm also part of that complexity, I'm involved in the dynamics, I'm involved somehow with the tensions, then working on what's happening inside of me, working on my part of it inside of me, but publicly, can have a very beneficial effect. Done so repeatedly over the years. Yeah. Anyway, so let me try that. Yeah. The support of the ocean behind me, so to speak. Yeah. What's been coming up, even with these very few podcast, the start of launching a podcast. Uh, I notice at times like mm, some anxiety, and I'm thinking, my teaching semester just ended. What am I feeling anxious about? And there's different things in life and in my life to feel anxious about, but I notice that lately I'll often come back to the podcast thinking, what am I going to say the next time? What happens if I veer a little bit into the political? You don't have to say much these days to get death threats, for example. Yeah. Mild criticism, for example, against the Trump administration could easily earn one death threats. Yeah, that says a lot right there. That says a lot about our world because it's, of course, America is not the only place where people are threatened with death or actually killed, sometimes for fairly minor, relatively minor, infractions. Yeah. Speaking one's mind sometimes is a step too far. Opposing what's going on in one's own society sometimes is seen as a step too far. Yeah. So I think there's an anxiety about being attacked, something about exposure. Yeah, I'm very sensitive to exposing myself and the potential attack, which I talked a little bit about this in my first podcast. Yeah, something that would come in and cut down my emerging creativity. Yeah. So that process is uh, is close by. Something that might say, "No, that's wrong. That's stupid. Who are you? You don't know anything. You're stupid. Shut up," etc. Or comes in with some of its racist flair. Yeah. Boom, boom. Sometimes when working with polarities, noticing the channels, for example, the movement channels, the channels that are involved can be helpful so that we make that part of our processing approach. Boom. Something that would cut down. Boom, boom. And I notice it has some power in it. It has some resolve in it. It has some clarity in it. All things that I need. But if I just stay at the effect of it, then I'm more like this. It's like, oh, fear. It's not to say that we shouldn't honor our fears, because sometimes we really need to actually believe in our fears and thinking, this might be a moment to just be quiet, let it pass. Or notice, hmm, if I speak here, there might be too much risk. Or, hmm, there is risk here, but I've processed it and it's worth speaking out. Yeah, things to weigh in the process. So here, yeah, all those things that I mentioned, you don't know, you're stupid, shut up. And then, yeah, a little bit like this. Mhm. But it's important, even if I'm not the most knowledgeable person, even if I'm not the smartest person, still in the hopes, in the chance that some of the things that I may offer in this podcast are helpful, I should do it anyway. So I'm going to call it Mr. Critic. So what do you say to that, Mr. Critic, there about the potential that some of the things I may offer, including today's podcast, for all I know, having access to a nature homespun energy could be helpful to a few people. What do you say about that? This one, well, that might be okay. That might be okay. But I think the edgier stuff for me is the political stuff. What do you say about that? Yeah, if I start saying stuff more about the political, knowing that, yeah, I'm not an expert here, but I am a concerned citizen. And I do believe that when things are really, really mm, misguided, the highest level, wrong at the highest level, I think people need to resist, speak up. What do you say about that? Hmm. I notice this one's a little bit more hesitant, but still like growly a little bit like, yeah, you better do your research. You better watch out. Mm, oh, interesting. When you say that, you sound a little bit protective of me. Is that true? Are you a little bit protective of me? Mm, I don't know, but I am protective of me. So I'm afraid you're going to make mistakes and say stuff and get criticized, and then I'm going to feel bad. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah. Hmm. Somehow it touches me that you have fear here. Hmm. You, Mr. Critic, have some fear here. Mhm. Okay. I notice I want to come back to the ocean for a moment. Mm, mm. Yeah. Good, good conversation, you guys. Yeah. Yeah. Not bad at all. I can hold you too. Mm, yeah. And I'm sure there'll be many more moments, but it's okay. We can keep coming back to this. And then I'll call it as Bill. Mm. Yeah, that's a very short little inner work, but I think helpful. I feel somehow separating out the two parts because a lot of times these things happen inside of us and they're not separated out and we just feel the mood, we just feel the fear, etc. Yeah. But sometimes separating them out a little bit in the inner work, hearing, for example, what the critic has to say, hearing what the criticized one has to say can be helpful. I notice I feel a little bit more, hmm, yeah, feel a little bit more this. So that's it for today. Hope you're well. Looking forward to continuing. Let me say a little bit about a future podcast. Um, Next podcast, I think, will be following up on the life myth. It's going to go a little bit into the essence of our addictions, with the idea being that all of us have either addictions or addictive tendencies, and how they can be part of a larger dreaming or mythic process. And I'm going to start leaning a little bit into a new direction, which I've been exploring, which has to do with how our mythic processes, like our big dreams of life that are sometimes so hard to know, how they may inform our response to the world. Yeah, exciting stuff. Hope you join me with that. Actually, I'm going to be giving a free presentation on that. I'll put it into the description below. Maybe you'll join in. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.